But if you wouldn't mind filling everybody in just kind of on your background, through strength conditioning maybe so far, and then or maybe a little bit about you, and then we'll fire stuff at you.
Okay. Um, like how far back?
As far as you want to go, Joe. Like maybe like third grade is where people start and go from there.
Fourth grade, I had an accident and cut my forehead open. But other than that, I had a house fire in fourth grade, but no. For strength and conditioning field, kind of getting into it, kind of how I got into where I knew I started as a business major here at Northwest in '96, and I worked as an office installation guy in the summer, building office cubicles, and people are miserable sitting behind a computer and complained about every little thing. And I realized at that time I did have no desire to go and do that. So I kind of thought, what did I enjoy doing, and what could I do as a career? And I always enjoyed lifting. I always enjoyed um, motivating people, teammates and stuff in the weight room. So I always thought originally I was going to be a personal trainer. I went to corporate and therapeutic rec, a double major at Northwest. Played football here, graduated, and was just going to start doing personal training. I got hired right out of school in 2000 to go to Principal Financial in Des Moines, and was doing personal training with all the principal employees there. And my fiance at the time, wife now, was going to Disney Wild World of Sports. She's an athletic trainer, and I could either stay in Des Moines or kind of figure out what she's going to do. So after Disney, she got done, and then she accepted a position at West Virginia University for their athletic training program there, and I was just going to follow her out there. So I quit principal, went out to West Virginia thinking just to be together. I could do personal training on the side, and started doing that. A guy named John Spiker, who was the head athletic trainer at the time, had a facility as a rehab and fitness place. And I got hired there and started working there. I was working at a hotel too, doing some training at another facility. And John said, "What do you think about going back to grad school?" I was like, "That'd be great. Like, I guess I don't really want to get back in the books, but my wife is going to be there for a while." I was like, might as well look at it. So I actually looked, and if you guys know football at all, Rich Rodriguez, who was at West Virginia, went to Michigan, went to Arizona. Actually sat and talked to him for about 45 minutes about being a defensive assistant GA on the West Virginia football team. And after that, I went and talked to John Spiker, and he said, "What do you want to do?" He said he'd hire you. I said, "Well, I don't see myself coaching." So he said, "Well, why don't you look at just the PE major, and I can get you a GA position there." So I ended up teaching 100 level class and had office hours, and then worked full time as I was a football coach. Helped the strength program at a high school there in Morgantown, and taught classes and got my master's paid for that way. Helped out a little bit in the Mountaineer weight room. Mike Barwis was the head strength coach there at the time. Now he's at the New York Mets, kind of does some individual stuff. He had, I can't even remember the name of the show, but it was a terrible show. But it was like, I don't know, I can't even remember it. But he had one where, but Mike Barwis, he's pretty well known. But he had, it was dumb. It was like 2 years ago it was out there. Anyway, anybody remember the name of it? Gage?
No, I don't, but I know what you're talking about.
Something iron or something. But
Something iron, yeah.
anyway,
I'll look that up.
Sorry, I don't need to. It's nothing to do with this story. It's just me rambling. But then, so after that, my wife got the assistant job here at Northwest as an athletic trainer. I finished up grad school out there, came back, and started actually working for the city of Maryville as a personal trainer, which at that time was kind of unheard of. It was nice. Started doing, getting a salary, but also I had got paid commission for personal training up to 20 hours a week was part of my contract. Anything above that was all extra money. Like I get 75% of what I brought in. Not that that matters, but understand. So at the time, I loved it. In the winter times, it was crazy. In the summer times, it was slow. So I started. I've always. It's kind of a weird type, but when I was at HealthWorks, the rehab and fitness place in West Virginia, met a guy named Dick Hartzell who invented the stretch bands, and I know you guys have some there. So I've known Dick for a while. When I got back here, nobody was doing anything with him. So I asked him if I could be a distributor, just so I could get the bands cheaper was the main reason for me. So I signed a contract, started selling for Jump Stretch. And those bands I just use, I'd have just Nike bags where in the summertime, wintertime, I was doing personal training for the city. In the summers, I'd go around to small communities around Maryville and started training people in high schools where I'd have like 15 to 30 kids in just groups. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good, there's 3 exercises with a warm up and some type of finisher, but worked on things that a lot of these kids aren't going to have an opportunity to work with. So that's what I did in the summer. I had still to work 20 hours a week at the community center to get my personal training there. But the city manager, Rod Oxer, at the time was great, allowed me to do that. So I enjoyed that. But after 4 years, I just remember getting out of my vehicle and going into work and struggling a little bit with just like, is this what my life's going to be like? It's not like it was, I loved the one-on interaction with the clients, but the actual enjoyment for my job wasn't there. So Northwest had just opened their strength coach, and obviously having ties with the coaching staff here, I applied for it, got interviewed, and the rest is history. I think I was not very qualified at the time. I still feel like I'm still learning and trying to continue to learn. Like even, I listened to Mark Watts. I don't know, Gage, if you saw that or you guys saw that. When Matt Smith, one of our former interns here, did a podcast with Mark Watts, which was amazing. And just, I mean, my route is very rare to get to where I was, because I learned a lot in those first year or two that, I should have learned before I even got a position. But I learned a lot at West Virginia under Barwis and some of those, but even the coaching component. So I've never been the best at, understanding. Like I've gotten better kind of going researching and doing stuff back, but I'm more of a relationship type coach. And that's one thing from the coaching, high school football, those type of things. Like I didn't say this, but when I was back here as a personal trainer, I was coaching high school football at Maryville too. So you get just the relationship and learning how to motivate athletes was a big part of what I did early. And then trying to find people for holes that I wasn't very good with. I mean, Gage, I was talking to somebody at one point, I was probably the least, you think of, I don't know, it's weird. Gage, or Mr. Rozier, is that what you call yourself? Preston Peterson, who's at a high school in Iowa, and then Jake Niederman as my GAs, who's at Minnesota. And like I think about like that staff for a Division II, yeah, they're young, but the work ethic is one thing for all my staffs that I think has been huge for me. Is I've learned a lot from all those people too. So very blessed beyond means there. So, but just I love teaching. A couple years back, I had an opportunity to go to high school and make just as much money and have a little more family time. But I wouldn't be mentoring and I wouldn't be teaching and those type of things. So it'd be more weight room only type stuff. And me and my wife, we talked about it, prayed about it, and decided it wasn't what I wanted to do, just because it sounds bad that I gave up a little more family time, but it's I don't know. I love mentoring people. I love working with people. I love talking to you guys, this type of stuff. So anyway, that's all I get.
It makes it easy though that you get to work with your wife.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if it's easier, but certainly an interesting dynamic. I'll start with first question. I'll let everybody else hop in. How would you so you started at Northwest, is it '08 or 9?
June of 08.
'08. Well, for everybody else, Joe played there and is one of the only handful of people who has involved in all 6 national championships that Northwest football has won, which Joe doesn't like to talk about. So I'll tell that for him.
I don't mind to.
But from a coaching perspective, Joe, how would you compare yourself, just however you want to answer it, like 2020 Coach Joe to 2008 Coach Joe?
2008 Coach Joe was more kick the doors down and burn everything. I mean, just torch people. Like it's the thing when I got hired to a guy named Bob Lade, who is actually at the NAIA now, but he was a rec coordinator at the time, and we'd been to 3 straight national championship games and lost. And when I got hired in the process, he said, "You're the only change that we're making to this staff. So if we don't get back there, it's kind of on you." So I kind of took it personal, and I was going to make the workouts as tough as possible and just torch dudes and just beat them into the ground. So that being said, like early on, we worked out 4 days a week, we lifted 4 days a week, and ran at least twice a week. Now I'm kind of on the opposite end of it. Even I should show you I have everything. This is my office. I'll come back over. Sorry to show you my butt there.
Good, you have pants on though. That's good.
Yeah, at least I put those on while I was making the eggs. Just kidding. But this is everything we can do from home for our guys. Our coaches aren't very happy that I can't do weights. And these are the different programs that I have. And I have a lot more holds and poses and things for deceleration and TKEs and all these things for joint stability that I probably never used to do. But just understanding the more isn't always better. And that's why early on it was always challenging people. And somebody said this in a speech is, if we're going off of making somebody throw up as a good strength coach, that's terrible. I mean, truly, he said my grandma could make somebody throw up in 10 minutes if they did something that would hard enough. That doesn't make you a great strength coach. So understanding the dynamics of the sport and the season, and I think that's one of the things that I think I have done a fairly good job with here at Northwest is understanding what is involved in our football season, what is involved in our basketball season, what the stresses upon the body, and how to adjust workouts, because our coaches are not truly going to change too much. I mean, yeah, I've talked to them and we've changed a little bit up, but understand back then I was just pushing like our coaches were. We had a lot of kids, especially by their junior and senior year, that were just broke down. So instead of 4 days a week, we're lifting 3 days a week. In season, we're 2 days a week now. And I'd like to have a recovery day where it's more stretching and different stuff, active recovery, but we can't get that in right now. So just understand the toll and overall cumulative effect of the season. I think I've gotten a heck of a lot better with that. But still trying to maintain that intensity at times. And I'd say that's the biggest difference.
All right. You guys fire away at Coach here.
Okay, I have a question. So at Northwest, obviously, like the men's basketball team, football, very, very elite and like top in Division II. And then maybe some other sport teams at the school that aren't so elite. Like, how do you coach those teams? Do you coach them the exact same, or do you coach them different? Or can you just talk about that?
Yeah, and that's one thing I question myself on at times too, is I try my best to coach them the same. But I'll say, people will say that about our football and basketball team, and I say I'm still the strength coach for our women's basketball team, and they're not doing so hot. So I'm just trying to relay what's expected and raise the level of those teams. For example, our track team has gotten a lot better. Our new track coach is really good. And I have a GA with them, and he came and talked to me after the season and said, can I get somebody else with me? I said, you don't, your program, he controls every part of his program. And I said, you don't need me. Our soccer team, our women's basketball, our softball need somebody that's going to be a little more permanent, where the GA sometimes it kind of looks bad for a coach to have that as their strength coach, but it's, you guys are just as much, challenging them in other ways. So I try to approach the idea of, I'm trying to make every team better. But the question I ask myself is, I do this with football and do all this stuff with football and basketball and these things that are challenging. And then I kind of back it down for those other sports. I'm like, why am I doing that? So I'm trying to raise it all over, where I challenge myself to bring the same type of energy, same type of expectation, because not to say it's not their coach's fault. In like women's basketball, we have a new basketball coach that was our men's assistant for a couple of years, and he's done a great job. But the athletes themselves sometimes don't have those expectations. So I have an expectation in the weight room, and whether they have expectation for their sports team as a coach outside the weight room, that's not on me. So I try to be as supportive as possible, but sometimes our coaches are just as much of a problem as anything, because man, I go talk to them and they're negative, and I try to be as positive as possible. And if you're being a piece of crap that day, sorry to cuss, but I'm going to let you know, and I'm not going to allow it, or just say go home and get out of the weight room to certain people. And it changes the mindset for everybody, because if you are what you allow is one of my best things that I say. And if I'm allowing myself to drop down to the the standards of what these teams are used to, I can't do that. So I don't know if I totally answered that question, but did that help? This might be, how long we got today? Hours? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, however long, whatever.
Kidding.
I have a question. So, do you do any type of goal setting or anything with any of your athletes, like with football and basketball? Like Sid said, those are super more of like the super successful sports at Northwest. So do you, as a strength coach, do any type of goal setting or culture type stuff in the weight room outside of what their sport coach already does?
Yeah. I'll typically do football is our only team that's really here year round. Even basketball, it's one of the toughest. I'll stay on football and come back to basketball, but football, being here, we have everybody here all year. I mean, obviously not right now, but we ended up sending bands out to soccer. Football they all have sets of bands for our fall sports, just so they can do something and try to prep for the upcoming season. Everybody else, at least, I'll have 6 weeks and of somewhat training before October 15th for basketball. So for football, when they stay in the summer, I usually have a meeting with them and have a goal setting with them and say, what are things you think you need to work on? And they kind of give me a list. I'll meet with the individual sports teams coaches and talk about each kid and say, this is what they say you need. This is, my expectation for you. And at the end of the summer, we usually meet with them. That's, I'll have individual, just like pull a kid aside. I'm very involved with our academic success program too now, where I get updates on all that stuff. So when I see kids, just even dropping them a line here and there for goals for school. For example, we have 107 kids on our football roster right now, and we didn't send bands to 2 of them because their academic standards are very low, and I know I probably would not see them again, and those bands would not get back to me. So I told them when they come to move out of the dorms, I said, if your grades aren't any better by the end of March, I'm not sending any of these bands. And neither of them were at, improving in their classes, so we didn't do that. So it's not just performance-wise, it's accountability of showing up. being a good leader, those type of things. So we have goal setting there. We have individual numbers where our freshmen and off seasons, we have kids write their goals on the outside. We have folders for all of our teams and have their goals written on there so they see them daily. But then it's also when they're walking around working out, and I can grab their folder and look at it and then look at their numbers where they're at and say, what are we doing to get to these places? So I try to do that for them. But, you know, as far as performance wise too, we'll do verticals every week. We do 10-yard sprints every week, those type of things that are easy to say, like, what are we doing? Are we struggling, resting, recovering, you know, sleeping, you know, relationship issues, where that's more one-on-one. Even though it's not long-term or short-term, we kind of just make them aware of those type of issues. So, but, you know, for summer is our big time with it. Freshmen, incoming freshmen, do a lot with meal planning and meal prep stuff and have some planning that way, a little more in depth. So did that answer it? We good? Everybody's got their speakers off. Anthony.
Hey, Coach. This is a little bit similar to Sydney's, but just speaking off those elite teams versus kind of the other teams on campus, what would you say is the biggest difference, or just even in general, the difference between teams that you know are going to come in and be elite every year and the teams that are going to struggle or be mediocre?
Easily, it's just the coaches and what they allow to, and our seniors, upperclassmen, dictate everything that happens for us, especially early. And football is one that is actually kind of different because our freshmen lift separate than our upperclassmen. So that's kind of more on my staff to kind of bring those kids along. But I don't know, I say our basketball program, they recruit the type of kid that not falls in line and totally is like a pushover, but falls in line and is a butt kicker that way, if that makes sense. They kind of just, they're not going to question what coach has. I mean, and when Coach McCollum started here, we had a lot of great athletes that were terrible teammates, and, you know, just when they weren't playing, even, you know, would tear down the team and tear down coach. So just the type of kid that we're bringing in, recruiting wise, has really helped that too, and limiting team size where everybody, it's kind of a plus and a minus. We had a kid tear his ACL against Duke this year, basketball. Oh, you're back. What happened?
My Wi-Fi kicked off. Sorry.
You're good. I started talking bad. I had one sentence in. I'll tell you that the rest of that story later. Okay. Did that answer it, Anthony? I don't know.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to a young strength coach getting into the field today?
Easiest just be passionate about what you're doing, and not truly, this is something that really hit me about listening to that Mark Watts, is don't say, you know, it has to be a certain way, because I've had, you know, a lot of different things and happen over my time here, and it's my 12th off season right now. So never say never, and there's always something to be learned from everything. I'm not huge into certain types of training, but there are things I'll pull from it that fit into either our setup in the weight room or just how we structure our program. So I've kind of, not that I've jumped a lot, because I started more of a conjugate type training, and then I'm on the system by Johnny Parker is what I'm doing now. It's all on overall volume, and it's been very beneficial, where I'm not a huge Olympic guy, and I've actually drawn back in the last 2 years to doing more Olympic type moves. So I just don't think you should ever say never on certain things, because there's always a case of a kid that comes in with some type of injury or some type of limitation that, man, there's some stuff that might be beneficial for you. So that's one of my biggest, always the communicate and network with as many people as possible. And I think Gage does a great job with this podcast, where you guys can get out and get opportunities to speak, and even, maybe possibly get internships and opportunities to go and meet some of those people. Because the more you know, it's just like any job, you're going to get a lot more opportunities to hopefully find out about jobs and learn a lot more too. So that's why the other night when we had our everybody, it's like the strength tree is what they call it. It's kind of weird, but seeing where everybody is at, there's individual, there's D1s, there's D2s, there's D3s, and there's high school that were all in the conversation. And it's just, you never know where you're going to be or what kind of comes about, or what, even with the job market, what's out there too. So so I don't know, that'll help. So how's the new job going?
It's good. Recruiting is a challenge. Not ever doing that before. So figuring out how to recruit and get kids here and whatnot. Calling people, cold calling kids and coaches and whatnot. So and figuring out how to word things. That's probably the biggest challenge I've had. You talk different to certain people, and with recruits and coaches, you got to figure out how to word things the right way. Figuring out how to say things and whatnot. So, I don't have a team yet, so I'm excited whenever I get kids here and actually get to make those connections, because I'm a big person with connecting with them, just like you are, and building those relationships with the athletes, and having a bigger purpose than just the weightlifting, because my job is to, in my mind, to build them as a better person. And so that's the thing I enjoy about the field. So that's what I'm excited about when they get here.
That's good. That'll be exciting. That's why it's kind of a weird timing for recruiting too. But
yeah, definitely had to change everything I was doing, like midway, because I just got hired in January. So, halfway through, all of a sudden this all goes down, and my whole plan, my agenda had to get thrown out the window. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's why it is interesting just to see, even right now, with this board, and even if whatever time we start back, it's going to be interesting to see, like, if I only have 6 weeks, or if it's June 1, which I don't see happening, is what they said right now. But if it's July and we have 5 or 6 weeks prior to preseason, what is the most important things? It's just chaotic. It's just kind of crazy. So, but everybody's in the same boat. So.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, I get to talk to these high school seniors, and, when I reflect back and thinking about if my senior year was cut short like this, how devastating that'd be for me. And so, I make that a point of a topic, talking to them, is, just, wish them luck through this tough time for them, because, maybe they're a spring athlete. They now don't get to play baseball or track, which is their passion, or, there's so much that goes on your senior year at the end of the year that all of a sudden is taken away from you. They don't get to walk for graduation and things like that. So, hearing their side of things and what, different schools are doing differently is interesting, but I'm enjoying it. It's good.
Good. Well, congrats. That's awesome. So.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, what are you doing as far as like professional development and stuff, like during this period? Are you diving in anything particular, or what are you doing in that standpoint?
More reaching out individually to people that I haven't talked to in a while, and just seeing what they're doing now. And not to say I have like a group of people that I kind of trust them a little bit more, but I don't try to have a huge overhaul of my program. I just kind of reach out to people that I think know at least what we have as facility and as far as time frames with training and people. So I don't know. I like listening. Like Mark Watts was great last night. Like I said, I'll probably talk about that a couple more times, but just kidding. But some of those things, just listening to your main huge people, there's some great insight from at any level but I do like the podcast a lot because because you get a lot of those people in the same circumstances you are, and that's great because I sat and talked to, I listened, it was at Michigan or Michigan State spoke like a year and a half ago. I was in Salt Lake City. It's been more than that, probably 4 years ago, on neck training. And they have like 20 neck machines. Like, okay, that's a worthless topic to me. So some of the D1, like it's great to say you talk to them, but actually what are you gaining from that? So I like talking to people. Is it Dos Hermanos? I can think the guy, he's at a College of the Canyons, but he's a master strength coach and uses like all his videos are done in like looks like an old school back hallway, like weight room small. And some of those things that actually, okay, I could, how he sets up stuff. Dos Hermanos is the last name. But I like picking those people's brains a little bit more because you're in watching videos and seeing what they're doing, because that's more the type of time frames I have. If I have an hour 15 and every 30 minutes I have another group coming in, what can I do? So I'm doing that. Being a teacher to my 4 kids, and trying to work out. We ended up pulling like half the Northwest weight room into my basement. So I have a decent amount of weights down there that my kids just climb on, really. I haven't really done much. But that, and actually resting as much as I can, I don't know. I think it's a godsend at times because you get so burnt out at times, but it's nice for that. So trying to do that. I try to I lead a men's group too, so I kind of get into scripture a little bit more, so that's a positive too. So
I told Ashley the same thing, is I feel like the best I've ever felt right now. And I was struggling kind of going into spring break, but the sleep thing, and we tell our athletes all the time, like, you don't know how good you feel until you sleep 8 hours. Like, I've lived that the last couple of weeks. Like, man, I feel amazing right now.
It's nice to wake up just how your body wakes up rather than to an alarm. Like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully we can keep that going and not get sick. But anyone else got any questions for Coach?
We'll come up and visit sometime once we get back going.
Yeah, we'll do an intern swap. We were trying to set one up before all this hits, but we'll definitely do one in the fall. But before you go, Coach, we're gonna do a finisher with you. 4 quick questions.
Boy.
Then you can go dye your eggs.
Oh, they're probably, yeah.
And they're probably already done. Let's see. Let's do favorite book.
I still Ego is the Enemy, I think, or Fred Factor. Those are too easy. I'm terrible focused. Like, as far as like, if a book's more than 150 pages, I probably won't finish it. But Ego is the Enemy I like because it's, a couple pages each, and it talks about, I don't know if you guys read Ego is the Enemy.
I have, yeah.
Nobody else? It's perfect for people like me because it talks about the rise, the pinnacle, and the fall of whatever sport or military. So it kind of gives real life analogies of how people manage the rise to whatever fame or sports are, and then when you're at the pinnacle, how they stayed there mentally without getting too big of a head, and then the fall. So I'd say Ego in me. Fred Factor, is the other one. It's about a guy who writes a book about his mailman that goes above and beyond, and it's very easy read, and it is very applicable to life, not just athletics, of how to treat people and kind of motivate people.
What's your favorite lift?
Deadlift over a double overhand. That's right.
What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you coaching your athletes?
Zach Williams is a D lineman. He pantsed me once. At Nebraska Kearney in 2011 or 12, I got plowed into on the sideline and probably busted up my knee. But yeah, it was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
But the pants thing was way worse.
Yeah, what'd you do to Zach about that?
I tried to kill that kid every day, so it really didn't matter. No, he's a good kid. I still talk to Zach, so that's crazy. But
It's good. What's your favorite? So Joe used to bodybuild, but he likes to eat too. So everybody thinks he's just like nutrition nut. But what's like your favorite meal? If you had one meal you could eat the rest of your life, what would it be?
is anybody from Des Moines area?
Mm-mm.
I like Bebop's. It's a double drive-through burger place. But that, if I had to pick, oh man. And I'm really weird as like I can eat the same thing every meal. Like I don't M Chamas, you guys know M Chamas down there? Jeez. What do you guys do? Need to make a staff trip to M Chamas once it's on my M Chamas is what if I could eat. It's just steak, but they bring you different cuts of steak and ham and all these things and shrimp you can get. But an actual meal, I love waffles. I love breakfast. So I'd say bacon, and I make strawberry and blueberry waffles and eggs. I'd eat because I could eat that any meal, any day of the week, all the time.
It's good. Sounds good. All right, Joe. Thanks for taking time to talk to our staff. Again, we'll try to set up an intern swap. Pretty much everybody on this call is going to be returning next fall. Be ready to roll again when we pick up. So thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
No problem. Nice to see you guys.
See you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.